Hi, everyone. Welcome back to The Torch. I am Jake Roberts.
And I am Kimberly Rowland, and we are super excited this week to have Caitlin Waters, the Marketing and Communications Manager of Risas Dental and Braces and the City Director of House of Genius Phoenix, in the house today. Hi, Caitlin.
What up?
Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Okay, so Caitlin moved to Arizona from New York 5 years ago for a social media internship at a tech software company, and that is how she got involved in the Phoenix tech and startup scene. She currently works in marketing for Risas Dental and Braces, which is a BBB accredited business, which is also a fast-growing dental group with offices in Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, and Texas. She's a huge advocate for all things downtown Phoenix and also living a car-free lifestyle, which we are definitely going to chat more about. So welcome, Caitlin.
Welcome, Caitlin.
Welcome,
Thank
Caitlin.
you, guys. Thank you guys for having me.
So we want to get the boilerplate questions out of the way first.
Absolutely.
Tell us about growing up in New York.
So, interestingly enough, when I say I've grown up in New York, people assume Manhattan. I did not grow up in New York City. I grew up in a small town called Warwick, New York. It's about an hour northwest of the city on the other side of the Hudson River. So very night and day compared to the city, but very commutable to the city. So, of course, I did go into the city a lot. It's funny, we were just talking about the town I grew up in because I have a couple coworkers who are actually traveling to New York City this October for the first time. And they were asking me some things to do. And I was like, of course, do all these tourist New York City adventures, but I also would love for you guys to get out of the city and do some fall activities like apple picking, other things you can't do when you're in Arizona. I remember when I first moved out here, I asked my boss at the time, like, what do you guys do for the fall? Like, what activities do you do? Like, do you guys do apple picking? And my boss literally looked at me and was like, is that a metaphor for something? She had no idea that, people actually apple picked. Like, it's like a foreign concept.
Yeah.
So it was like very small town. We had a lot of dairy farms. My mom is a school teacher in the school district that I went to. So very close-knit community. It was very fun. Graduating from high school there, going off to college in Buffalo, I always thought I would end up in New York City. But here we are in Phoenix, Arizona.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So why Arizona? That's like the other side of the country and
hot.
And super
Yeah.
hot, different climate. Yeah, what brought you to AZ?
So I moved out here July 2013. I had just graduated college in May and was kind of looking for my next step. I had a bunch of friends that I made in Buffalo and kind of wanted to stay there. It was kind of the shiny artifact where it's like, I don't want to move home with my parents. I want to stay and hang out and go and have fun with my friends. But really there was nothing in Buffalo for me. Mm-hmm. So I ended up moving home and I did a couple interviews for some PR companies for internships for the summer and didn't work out. I didn't really have the experience. And my uncle, who lives out here in Cave Creek, he owns an investment firm and told me about this company called Social World, this tech software company or platform that was looking for an internship, a summer intern. And so my uncle's like, I'll get you the interview, and then after that, it's up to you what you want to do. So I took the interview. It was for a social media internship, and got the position, and then, it was like, oh crap, now where am I going to live for the next 3 months? So I looked on Craigslist. I knew I was going out without a car, so I knew I couldn't live with my uncle in Cave Creek. That would just be impossible. The office was in downtown. Mm-hmm. So I looked on Craigslist. I found this bed and breakfast place that let me do a long-term rental in like this little cottage. I had like my own little house, for less than $1,000 a month. It was amazing. And came out here for 3 months, ended up loving it, even though I moved out in the middle of July and could not believe the brick of heat that hit me when I got off the airplane. I was like, what am I doing? And when they offered me the full-time position, it was in like the middle of September, towards the end of September, and I was like, I don't know if I can do these summers anymore. It's just so hot. It felt like there was never going to be a break. Mm-hmm. And they were like, just wait it out, make it through October. Like, I promise you, when you're hanging out in the sun by the pool on Thanksgiving and the rest of your family potentially could be shoveling snow, like, you'll understand. And I made it through that, and I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. We grew up with winter sports. I love snowboarding and skiing. We have snowmobiles at my parents' house. But I was never like a cold weather fan. I love the sun. I am a huge advocate for sunshine being a mood lifter. I mean, I think cities that are rainy all the time, affect your mood, just kind of alter everything about you. And I've definitely seen my mood alter since I moved from Buffalo, which is gray all the time, to directly to Phoenix after college, and just sunshine every day.
Isn't it the snowiest place in America?
It is one of them, yeah. And they get the lake effect snow. So like Buffalo, Syracuse, all the western New York kind of cities, they just get slammed. Luckily, my college was in like the city of Buffalo, so we kind of were like in the little like pocket of where it didn't get a lot of heavy snow. But around us, I mean, highways would be closed. We actually had a snow day. Like we had multiple snow days, which is insane. People can't even get to the college. So
wow,
which was the most fun time when you're in college, because then everyone's like, party, snow parties, snow days. Yeah, because you're like, I'm never gonna have. When you go to college, you never think you're gonna have a snow day. You think the last of that was middle school, high school, elementary, but.
We never get Sundays here.
We should have extreme heat days.
Well, we did get that rain day. I don't know if you guys had it, but it was a couple years ago. Actually, when I was working at Social World, he called us that morning and told us we didn't have to come to work because the highway right at I forget the name of the highway.
On the I-17.
I don't drive out here, so I don't. Yeah.
The I-17 and the 10 were flooded. I remember that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes,
so he's like, just work
off.
from home, and I was like, well, I don't have snow days, but at least rain days are now a potential.
That was crazy. That was like 100-year flood.
Yeah. People were swimming on the highway, like boating, had their boats out.
So random. We do a survey for all of our podcast guests before they come, and Jake and I asked them, if you could meet one person, either living or dead, who would it be and why? And Caitlin left this blank, so I'm wondering, does that mean you've already met everybody you would want to?
Okay, like I was telling you guys before the show, I was listening to the previous podcasts, and they were talking like, they're mentioning Abraham Lincoln, and I just really didn't have someone in history or political figure that really was like stood out, but I've always wanted to meet Beyonce, and as silly as that sounds, she is awesome. She is just such a power chick. I just think everything that she does embodies strength and power, and she's been in the headlines the past couple of years with her husband, maybe some cheating allegations that happened, and she turned around and made a whole album about it and how it made her stronger, and I just think she's such a great role model, and I really admire how big of a celebrity she is, but how private she is, and how how she controls what she really wants the world to see. But but without being rude about it or anything. She's iconic. Doing her thing. She is iconic.
Yeah. She's not an attention grabber. She doesn't seek that out. No. She's an artist, right? And she just accepts whatever comes along with that.
Yeah. She's a great entrepreneur too. I mean, in addition to being an amazing performer and artist, Beyonce is a mogul as well, and she, like you said, it's all about her brand, and her brand is so strong. It's
so strong.
And yeah, so that's awesome. I love that. That's a great answer.
Yeah. So when you have to like make transcripts of all these, and you're like putting the list of names, you can have like Abe Lincoln, Beyonce. It'll look good together.
It's the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Yes.
When was it that you found your calling with startups and marketing? What was the moment you realized, this is what I want to do? This is the community of people that I want to help?
My senior year of college is kind of when I figured out I was really interested in the marketing and social media way of distributing news and content, because I was a journalism major and I was taking all these classes on how to be an anchor and reporting, and I just really knew I didn't want to be a reporter. I knew I didn't want to work at a newspaper. I knew I didn't want to sit at a desk on a news show. But I loved how social media was making it easy for anyone to be reporters. And I thought it was fascinating that the way that mobile and social media was being developed, the news distribution was completely changing. And so that aspect I really loved. And I love connecting with people. I love talking to people, interviewing them, hearing their story, and then being able to tell their story. And that flows really nicely into the marketing industry. So when I came out for the social media internship, I had only had one prior social media internship at Habitat for Humanity Buffalo, where they only had 6 people on the team. I was hired basically just to do everything. It wasn't really like a learning experience because there was no one there to teach me. It was just, which is very common for nonprofits. So I came on, they kind of taught me how to log into their email marketing system, and then they gave me all the passwords to their social media, but that was kind of it. So I kind of taught myself best practices, figuring out what worked when we shared content. Did people like to see pictures of the actual builds, or do they like to see the pictures of the families who are moving into those builds? And it was the pictures of the families. They want to know more about their story. A lot of them were refugees, so they had the most incredible stories. And being able to showcase that, I just fell in love with. So going directly to a tech software platform in a startup, it was completely different. I mean, B2B is a totally different ballgame, but not so much either. I mean, it wasn't as hard to transition to, but I had no experience in like technology, in software. It was like I think I was still a year into the company before I understood like what we did, and like when I started to do my business development role, I was doing kind of some inbound sales, and I was learning the platform as I was practicing my pitches. Like I was like, oh, this makes more sense, but what if I'd say it like this? Like I think people are going to understand it more. So I was able to like take some really heavy tech talk and turn it into stuff that people like, small business owners can understand.
Love that.
So that was really fun. But that was my first, came out here with the marketing mindset, social media, but then happened to be a startup. One of the things I was put in charge of was, I think my title was like community engagement manager, specialist. And I was seeing all these really cool things because I was researching like other software companies in Phoenix. We wanted to know kind of like what other software companies were doing, how were they utilizing social media. And I started to find out like all these really cool events that were happening, like happy hours, and heard about Seed Spot, and they had like these pitch nights, and I was like, this would be so cool. Like we're in this awesome space downtown. We're kind of like in our own bubble. No one's going out and doing anything and talking about our company. It's like I volunteered, and I'm like, I'll go do it. So I started just like RSVPing to all these events, and I would just go there as this like 22-year-old, just coming off in an internship, like coming to represent this tech startup. But I got to meet such cool people, and that's kind of how I got my hands wet in the startup industry, and I just loved hearing the incredible stories of these entrepreneurs. And I knew that I didn't have an idea. I don't have an idea for a company, yet, but I wanted to help companies build. I wanted to help them get the word out about their company. I wanted to introduce them to people that I was lucky enough to know that I think would make a great partnership on both sides. And so I remember the last year that I was working for Social World, it was kind of in a weird transition where we were like looking for more funding, and I wasn't really it was kind of hard for me because I wasn't really growing anymore. I wasn't being challenged anymore. There was nothing for me to learn yet. I was just kind of doing what I was doing. It was stagnant. So I knew it was time for me to like move on, and I got asked to transition into the company that I'm in now. And I remember the first day that I started at Risas Dental and Braces, Jonathan Contrell emailed me and said, Caitlin, I have this weird request. Like, you got 5 minutes to be on the phone. I'm like, sure.
You don't say no to Jonathan.
No. So I pick up the phone. I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm in the conference room of our Risas Dental office. And he's like, real quick, I want to know if I can hand off to you the Yes PHX social media. And I was like everything? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I just think you'd be really great with it. Here's a couple things you need to keep in mind, but like whenever you have a question, just let me know. And I'm like, sure, this sounds fun. Like it'll help me still keep my hands planted in the startup scene, get to know when events are happening. Because my heart was still there. And so I took that over, and those not familiar with Yes PHX, it's kind of what I refer to as the umbrella that connects our startup and entrepreneurial community out here in Arizona. So we have some social media channels that we use just to help promote events and resources. But I was looking at it more as a way kind of connecting people, and I had learned so much while I was at Social World doing this with it, or participating in all those events. I didn't want to lose all those contacts. So
that was a very strategic.
Yeah, but I was like, not so much using the context. I guess the context was the wrong word. But it was like, I still loved what they were doing, and it was interesting coming into this new company because when you look at a startup, businesses that open up new locations, they have to go through a lot of the similar processes. They have to find funding. They have to get funding. If they have their own, look for investors. And then they have to find, solutions or problems in the areas that they want to build this company. So like, each one we have a new market, we have to look at, or a new office for Risas Dental, we have to look at, the demographics that are there. How are we marketing to these people as opposed to how we're marketing to these people? Some of our procedures and treatment options that we have at one location that are prized possessions, maybe those aren't actually, what people in Tempe want to know about or want to get done or even care about.
Tell us more about Risas Dental and Braces.
Yeah, so Risas Dental and Braces is a dental and orthodontic company founded out here in Arizona back in 2011. We have 14 offices in Arizona or in Phoenix, including an oral surgeon. We have 1 location in Tucson, we have 5 in Denver, and we just opened up our 21st office in Las Vegas.
That's exciting.
In North Las Vegas. Yes, it was so exciting. It was being on the marketing team, it was our first new market launch. It was my, I think, 11th or 12th office that I've helped open. But this one was like a big deal because it was, we don't know the market. We have no feet on the ground there. We're basically trying to get these people to become patients of ours with no history about us at all. So that was really exciting. We just had the grand opening there. And we have an office in San Antonio opening in December. So that's a new market for us as well. Texas, we have no locations. And then we'll have another Denver office in, Commerce City, so it's a little outside of Denver, in Colorado. But yeah, I mean, it's to me, becoming from this tech startup to a dental company was like crazy. I didn't know anything about dental. I just knew that my boss at the time now, we worked together on the marketing team at the tech startup. Mm-hmm. So he kind of stole me. And I was excited because I was like, you know what? I worked well with Juan. He's one of my best friends. This is going to be fun. This is going to be awesome. But it was a lot. I mean, because part of the role that I was brought on to do was social media and marketing. So we had a lot of people asking dental-related questions on social media. Who would have thought? So that was a learning hurdle, but you learn really fast. I would say it took me about a good year to really be comfortable with talking about some of the treatment options that we have and prices and the way that the offices work. And it takes time. You have to go and visit the offices. You have to get to know your doctors, your teammates, the community that your offices are in. Mm-hmm. But when I was brought on, we were pretty much working from the ground up in marketing. We kind of had a whole new marketing team that they were bringing in because they kind of wanted to change the way things were going. Mm-hmm. So we had a lot of freedom to do whatever we wanted and kind of fail and learn from that.
How do you figure that out, though? How do you come into something and they say, we're going to do something entirely new? How did you go about changing the direction?
Well, it was a lot. It's kind of easier now when they're like, we don't want to do what we did before. So it's like you kind of have the reins to.
You have their attention,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I only knew what I had done previously at the tech startup was, a lot of Facebook ads and digital advertising, and it's a little different than with Risas. A lot of the things we do to help spread the word and get to know our community is community events. Every time we open up a new office, and this is something we were like, we are never changing this. Every time we open a new office, we offer 4 hours of free dental. So it's like our grand opening for that office, cool. Right? And we're as a marketing team, that's gold. I mean, that's amazing. It's such a great thing we're doing for the community, but it's also, anyone could appreciate free dental. I mean, mm-hmm. It resonates with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Everyone has teeth.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's a need. And also for free, it's so yeah, every time we open a new office, we offer 4 hours of free dental with that grand opening, and then we have our annual Labor of Love event, which every year on Labor Day, all of our staff works for 4 hours, similar to a grand opening, but we offer free dental at all of our locations. So this year we offered it at, I believe, 19 of our locations. One of them was being remodeled, so we didn't have them participating. So next year it'll be even more, which is incredible. But having free reign, it's such a great team, such a great, the directors above us, they really just let us, try anything we want and, prove why we want to do what we're doing. If the results aren't there, we don't do it again. So it was a really great learning period. And I think the first year we did a lot of trial and error about what works and how we can spend our efforts wisely across. Because I was just used to just being digital,
Mm-hmm.
We have it's a software company, so you're getting most of your leads. They could be in New York, where all of our patients are based around where our offices are. So we have to do a lot more localized and hyper-local marketing. So the community events and sponsorship of things like that really have helped us. But then also doing things like with Phoenix Rising and the Fiesta Bowl, it kind of helps, our national exposure as well.
So question, I have to pretend ask this because I already know the answer, and Jake knows the answer. But what is House of Genius? Do I have to be a genius to attend? And is there a secret password to get in?
I love that. Was that you, Jake? That came up with that?
No, no.
Those.
That was,
So
Jake knows the answer too now.
it's kind of funny because the term House of Genius is very elusive. You don't really know what that is. So it's an international nonprofit. It's found in cities all over the world, mostly cities that have a heavy startup scene, and that focus on bringing the community together to listen to entrepreneurs and startups, tell their story, present their company, for a night to give feedback to them. So the beauty of the event, it happens once a month in Arizona on the last Wednesday of every month, is we put together people in a room who probably would never reach out to each other for feedback. So if we have a tech startup that is in the golf industry, it's an app to book tee times, and then we have another woman who wants to open up a brick and mortar cereal shop, milk and cereal bar.
Two actual companies
Yes.
that have pitched.
Yes, and two completely ends of the spectrum. But my favorite part is putting people in the room that they would probably never talk to. So students, professors at colleges, other marketers. Of course we do have, law firms. We have other serial entrepreneurs, designers, developers. We had someone who worked at a horse barn. There's nothing you need to have that would make you a better panelist. It's really, if you're just willing and open to give feedback to those companies, we welcome you. So the companies come and present, and it's not so much a pitch for funding. They're just looking for feedback or help with an area in their business they're looking to solve. So we call it an ask. It can be a question or a statement, but it's usually around, I'm not seeing the X amount of results with my marketing. What can I do different? How can I expand into the Arizona education system? How can I get introduced to toy companies? I say that because one of the companies that's presenting tonight is going to be in the toy industry. But it's super, super weird stuff that you'd never think, but those specific questions also actually turn into this huge discussion. So they have 5 minutes to present. The panelists have an opportunity to ask questions to that startup, anything to clarify further for their ask. And then one by one, each panelist goes around, gives feedback, anything that they think would help the entrepreneur with their problem, any introductions they can potentially make. Here's the kicker, though. The entire event, we keep everything anonymous. So everyone has to remain on a first-name basis, and no work talk. So, as much as I hate small talk, that's what we encourage. So, how's the weather? Where are you from? Where do you live now? Kind of stuff. Just because
you have to kind of find an icebreaker that isn't anything about what you do.
Yes.
It's difficult.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is. Because most people are like, what do you do?
Exactly.
And it's funny because during the feedback, when the panelists are giving feedback to the companies, we tell them not to use anything qualifying in their feedback. So some of them will start with, in my experience as, or when I was working at XYZ, and it's like, stop, don't go any further, because we don't want to have them set up their answer to, okay, they're an expert in that. It kind of puts everything just kind of everyone's sitting across the table from each other. No one knows where each other's from. No one knows level of experience, level of schooling. It's just everyone in a room, transparently just ready to, non-judgmental. Everyone's just talking to each other. And
why the level of anonymity, though?
So it's a great thing to get everyone in a room that aren't researching each other beforehand. I kind of like the attendee list. No one knows until you're actually in the room, first name. Of course, as big but as small of a world the Phoenix startup scene is, majority of people at least know one person other in the room. But it keeps everyone on the same kind of playing field. It's I don't care if I'm sitting next to an ASU student or I'm sitting next to the CEO of the law firm we're sitting in. It shouldn't matter. I think some people might direct their questions or feedback more towards someone they think is the person that would know the answer. But in reality, it's usually the people who you wouldn't think to ask who have the best feedback. I remember one of our sessions, we had a high school student in the room, and she gave amazing feedback. And I was like, it was one of the moms who had messaged me, and she had to take her daughter with her because she picked her up from school and was coming from school. And I'm like, yeah, sure, bring her. And she gave feedback and participated, and I was like, this is awesome. And that's what made me want to have at least some kind of student entrepreneur or student interested in working in the startup industry, come to a House of Genius panel.
Seems like an excellent opportunity to learn something.
It is.
Yeah.
And I also like to see like people outside of the startup scene. I totally welcome people outside of, like, to me, I think everyone should be involved in their startup community. Like, it shouldn't be this thing that's so like it's just like so exclusive. And if you don't own a company, you're not at a startup. Like, no, the people that are on the ground building that company are not the CEOs of that company. And I think some people also who are not involved, who not work specifically at a startup industry, they still have so much feedback and so much insight to share about topics that any company, regardless how big or small you are, goes through. Sometimes as simple as like, you know, do I hire a sales team or do I have sales consultants, or, you know, just things like any business would go through that anyone can benefit from.
I love that diversity too. I think kind of like what Caitlin's saying, sometimes the best panelists that we get in that room are the folks that you wouldn't necessarily think, you know, you don't see them at the startup scene events. They're not the usual person, but they have really rich feedback. And that is what's great about having the anonymous room, is otherwise the presenter might
play to that person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it really does level the playing field. That's awesome, Caitlin. I love it. And I've been volunteering with Caitlin for the last few years too.
Yes.
I should have disclosed that. Otherwise people are like, how do you know this much?
Yeah,
and
we're going into our fifth year, which is exciting.
Going strong.
This coming April 2019 will be our 5th year. We started.
Yeah, hundreds of entrepreneurs have come through House of Genius.
Mm-hmm. What have you seen a lot of the companies that have come through, like, you know, launch their product or get to where they wanted to go? Like, what's that like?
I think my favorite part actually is seeing them like pivot.
Yeah. After the experience.
Like, you know, not. I mean, obviously, of course, I would love the feedback to be great and them to succeed from that, you know, and to continue growing their business. But a lot of the times, you see them walk out of there and they're like, "I was going about this all wrong." And it kind of forced them to think about, you know, who their audience is, what problem they're solving. You know, is there really a need? There's some companies that are trying to do too many things when really they just need to narrow it down to one. I know we had one company that was trying to be, you know, have a vendor side, but also to B2C side, so directly to the consumer. And they're like, no, like, here's where your money is with those vendors. Like, here's where it is. And he was like, that makes so much sense. And then, you know, that's what they came out of there and completely pivoted their business. Some businesses didn't, kind of found out that they weren't a great business. I think a lot of the ones that are just, those are the companies that we usually have that are very new. Like, they don't have an app developed. They don't even have their brick and mortar. They just have a business idea. And sometimes I like to mix it up and throw a couple of those people in there, only because I think it's nice to have people who have no experience in presenting their company or presenting their business idea to get feedback, and hopefully being either the motivation to continue doing it, or maybe like, okay, I need to step back and maybe do a little more research, do a little more, spend a little more time figuring out what exactly is I want to do or create before I start just trying to sell it.
It puts them in a no risk situation where they get to pitch their business, right? And figure out where the holes are.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is no risk at all negatively, but there is a tremendous positive risk.
Yes.
I mean, because like, yes, I mean, there's so much reward just being in the room in general as a panelist, as a keynoter, as a startup presenter. It's like everyone is impacted and everyone gets leaves really motivated, because even if you're not presenting your company, you're listening to someone else tell their story and why they're jazzed about creating the company they're creating. And it's inspiring. I mean, I leave there like, holy crap, I need to start working on something on my own. Like, geez, like we've had a lot of ASU students present and GCU students, and they're their junior year in college, and they already have this crazy idea, which is awesome because it shows those schools are spending time on helping kids and students in college that have business ideas grow their business.
Yeah, and some of them are in sales already.
Yes. Yeah, and revenue. Yeah. I'm like, this is incredible. This is amazing.
The cool thing about House of Genius too, I think, and Jake, you saw this last month, was in the evening, because most everyone's coming from work or some sort of long day. There's like this energy lull in the room after the second presenter, where you can kind of tell people are getting a little tired as the sun's going down. But then there's like, it shoots right back up once people start going around and introducing themselves, because people love to talk about themselves. And then at the end, the room is literally loud, buzzing, and Caitlin and I have to kick people out of the conference room because we're like, it's 9 o'clock at night, everyone go to bed. Like, but that's such a cool part about House of Genius too.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always start off like, thank you guys so much for volunteering your Wednesday evening with us for a couple hours. I know it's hard getting out of work, whatever. And then we're the ones that are like, okay, guys, it's time to leave. Because we love the opportunity for everyone to be able to like network with each other, especially if they heard something from across the table that some like feedback that they really liked. They really want to connect with that person. We want to encourage that. We also give everyone in the room each other's contact information. So and we take notes during the presenters. Like, so any questions or feedback that the panelists are telling the presenting companies, we're actually taking notes during. So they'll get transcripts of that. Yeah, it's really fun. I think everyone should be on House of Genius. If you want to be on House of Genius and you're listening to this, please do it. House of Genius Phoenix. It is incredible.
I can vouch. It's a fun time.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah. What is your experience? How did you like it?
Well, I went in. I had this kind of like, I wasn't sure what I would be able to contribute during the ask, and for some reason, I was the first one asked to.
That was a drag. Phil did pick Jake to go first both times, first and then second. So that's really
but like
hard.
reverse order. Like
Right.
you're gonna go this way, we're
Right.
gonna go this way.
Yeah, it was not fair.
But not to say that made it unenjoyable or anything. I felt that I did have something I could say to at least give the businesses insight into certain parts of their products that they were putting out. My favorite part was sitting there listening to everyone else's answers, right? Because I'm like a sponge. I'll sit there and just like listen.
And you get ideas too that you can
Yeah.
bring back to your teams. Like I get ideas all the time of stuff I can bring back. Like even to integrate just at House of Genius, but also at Risas Dental, which is awesome. And it just like further invokes like your feeling of like maybe feeling like I don't know if I'm gonna have anything to give, feedback to give, but like just because you don't own a startup, you're not working in a startup does not mean you can't help an entrepreneur with a problem they have. And most of them are business problems that everyone's going through.
And the Q&A piece is huge too, because Jake, you had some really good questions. The questions are great because, like you said, Caitlin, we write them down, we give them to the entrepreneurs after the event, and those are really, to
Those
me,
are like gold.
Yes, they are, because there are these questions that when you're looking at your business or your nonprofit or your product, you have a bias, right? Because that's your special project. Like we talk about, it's hard for you to see anything wrong with it. But these questions,
They help you see your blind spots.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do I get involved with House of Genius?
So the most efficient way to get in touch with us and let us know you want to be involved is to use our Google form that we have pinned to the top of our Twitter profile. And our Twitter handle is House of Genius Arizona. So the handle is actually HofGAZ. And that's the easiest way. But if you just search House of Genius Phoenix, it also will come up on the Twitter.
Are there a lot of opportunities still in 2018 for me to either pitch my company or be a panelist at House of Genius?
Yes. There's only one. Well, sorry, I totally phased out. Yes, there is an opportunity to get involved, but there's
not a
only
lot.
one.
Nice.
So we take November and December off only because it's just always falls around the time of Thanksgiving and Christmas, and people are just crazy busy with the holidays. So we take those 2 months off. October 30th is our last event. We are looking for panelists. We are looking for one more company presenter. And I believe we still have our keynote up for grabs. If you have anything you'd like to talk to the audience about, it's like an 8 to 10 minute keynote. Usually just something to get everyone jazzed and motivated for the event, pertaining to kind of starting your business, how to stay motivated. Really wide range of topics we totally appreciate. And totally informal. It's not something you have to go up there and have a PowerPoint and everything. Most of our keynote speakers don't even have a PowerPoint.
And for people who are interested, I believe we're booking already into next year. So
yeah, absolutely.
Right?
So January 30th will be the first event for 2019.
Tuesday, October 30th, or Wednesday, January 30th.
Yes.
So sign up while you can. So, Caitlin, last question. 2019 is right around the corner, which we just talked about. It's pretty nuts that we're scheduling House of Genius into 2019 already. However, there's always trends coming up, and I know that you're really with it from a marketing and social media perspective. Do you have any sense of upcoming marketing or social media trends that business owners and entrepreneurs who listen to The Torch should know about?
Yeah, especially pertaining to some smaller business owners. I think hyper-local marketing is probably a term they may or not have heard of, but I think is super powerful. And essentially, that's just super targeted niche marketing. So, being able to target and advertise and talk to your consumers in, a zip code range, really. I think ultimately a lot of times small business owners focus on a lot larger than that, but they need to focus on, how far are people traveling to come to your business? Is it worth marketing to someone 25 miles away when really the farthest they'll drive for a slice of pizza is 10 miles if you're a pizza store? I think another thing is influencer marketing. I think entrepreneurs, startups, any business owners, just be really careful with this influencer marketing craze. I personally am not a huge fan. I think people get caught up in the numbers of followers that these influencers quote unquote have, but they're not looking at who exactly is following those influencers. Perfect example, if you own a pizzeria and you have 5 locations across Phoenix, you want to work with someone to promote, a grand opening of a new location. Someone who has 1 million followers might sound good on paper, but when you ask for their demographics, ask for the insights, which any influencer or any business account on Instagram can provide, and it can show you actually the geographical data of who is following that account. So who you thought this 1 million follower that's actually lives in Phoenix, their followers could be 90% based out of New York or San Francisco, which will not bring in customers for your pizzeria. So spend some time focusing on, if you want to go the influencer route, is like these hyper local influencers. What has worked really well with us is maybe a couple thousand followers, if that, but people who are really getting engagement with their posts, who are answering questions that people have about the product or service or business that the influencer is actually promoting. A lot of these times I see these, influencers post a product and then that's it. And there's so many people who have questions about where they can buy it. Does it come in other sizes, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not answering any of that. And it's like, what's the point of this post? It's just a paycheck for that influencer, and it's just such a waste of money. And I highly, highly urge you not to do that. And if you're going to, make sure that what you're doing is very, very focused on your industry or the people who are going to buy your product. That person is already talking about it. Or if it's for a small local business, make sure that the people that are following that individual or organization, the majority of those people are based where you are.
Great tip. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Caitlin. We appreciate your time.
This was so much fun. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, thank you. I want to thank Caitlin Waters once again for coming out and talking to us about social media marketing, specifically for startups. House of Genius. Sounds pretty great, right? Well, I've been, and I'm here to tell you it is. It's a very casual environment. There's food and drinks, and the keynote speakers are usually pretty knowledgeable and thought-provoking. I was able to listen to Brian Moore of Y Scouts speak about psychological safety in the workplace. Great stuff. And even if you don't think you have anything you can contribute to the Q&A portion of the night, although, trust me, you do, it's really fun to listen to other people put in their 2 cents. I walked away from the event having heard some really powerful insights, actually. If you want to get involved with House of Genius, reach out to them on Twitter at HofGAZ. That's at HofGAZ. I want to remind you that our BBB Integrity Online auction has launched. We've got a ton of really cool items. I've seen them, and I'm telling you now that if you don't bid on them, I will. So help save my wallet and help ethical youth at the same time by bidding. Please go to auction.bbbcommunity.org and check it out. And finally, if you have any questions for any of our guests, if you'd like to have someone back to discuss a certain topic, please reach out to us and let us know how we can help you. Just send an email to thetorchpodcast@bbbcommunity.org. Thanks again for listening, and if you liked it, please subscribe and review us anywhere you listen to podcasts.